Hi everyone! Today we start with a topic that is a prominent feature of our daily life. Cat events. They impact our brave old world, posing new threats and challenges. My part is to deliver an overview of the situation as we see it today, as we forecast it, and its ever worsening trends over the long term. Sylvie will address the concrete issue of loss occurrence clauses, definitions of covers and events, clear or unclear, and the ensuing difficulties between parties. Clemence will analyze the issues of proportional and non-proportional treaties. Laurent will explain the differences between NatCats and man-made events. Year after year, cat events bring us new expressions: protection gap, loss creep, secondary perils, climate change, insurable or uninsurable, private-public partnership. Before addressing these issues, let's start with a simple question. What is a cat event? It depends. In Indonesia, more than 100,000 people fell victim to a tsunami. It was a tragic event, but there were no major financial consequences to the reinsurance industry. It was not a cat event. The World Trade Center attack, on the other hand, that caused 2,800 deaths, was a huge cat event, and the trauma still affects people 20 years after. Protection gap. For any cat event, we see larger economic losses than insured losses, respectively $202 billion, more than twice the 10 years average of insured losses at end 2019. The gap is bigger in Asia, 91.6%, than Europe, 81.9%, or US, 72.8%. The fact that a percentage of the economic losses is related to public works, infrastructures, bridges, that are not always insured is one aspect. Insurance density is another one. In France, we have had a NatCat reinsurance scheme managed by CCR since the 80s that reduces the gap substantially for French citizens. Capital dedicated to reinsurance has increased over recent years, but the protection gap is broadening. It increased from $87 billion in 2019 to $113 billion in 2020. The reinsurance industry suffered losses over the period 2017 to 2021, producing a return insufficient to cover the cost of capital. This is a major challenge for the future of our industries. The claim costs and potential have not been properly ascertained and paid for by insurers. Insurance companies and their reinsurers are facing a major challenge in view of this. Loss creep. Losses from Hurricane Irma in the US and Typhoon AGB in Japan were still increasing 2 years after their occurrence. This shows us that property cat events cannot be considered as short-tail events any longer. Late notice of claims, increased cost of repairs due to the flow of demands, legal battles, these are new features for reinsurers to deal with. COVID-19 and the European floods in July shows us that this topic is due to last well into the future and must be included in our pricing method. So-called secondary perils. Reinsurance companies are very knowledgeable about storms and hurricanes and price them according to recently revised models, but every year new events occur. NatCats or man-made events that generate uncalculated or unexpected amounts of losses that in some cases are unprecedented in terms of both severity and or frequency. Wildfire, increased frequency and severity in the US, but also in many countries from Australia and Greece to Portugal and Turkey. In 2020, George Floyd's death caused violence and damages of $1 billion. In 2021, the riots in South Africa depleted the pool initiated in the 70s to cover terror, as well as SRCC, Strike, Riot, Civil Commotion Fund, which had so far been lost, causing heavy costs to reinsurers. In 2021, European floods in July generated insured losses of over 10 billion euros, breaking the record in Germany. These events and others that will bring combined ratios of reinsurers above 100%, either man-made or nat cats, had not been modeled. Climate change, the new obsession. Today, worldwide reinsurance premium amounts to almost $300 billion. Surplus dedicated to reinsurance are between $500 and $600 billion, depending on criteria used. A single cat event could reach at some stage $400 billion. In 2021, cat losses will probably exceed $100 billion. Climate change is not responsible for everything, but it is an aggravating factor that will worsen in the coming years. Is this still insurable or not? Need for reinsurance cover is growing. Reinsurance industry capital to cover this event is limited. Price to cover this is insufficient, and the increase that is needed is unaffordable to citizens and corporations. Emerging risks are going far beyond expectation, and it is not easy to ascertain accumulation. This applies to cyber, pandemics, PI, CBI. Then private-public partnership. Is this a possible solution? Over the years, pool solutions have been created to cover major risks: nuclear, pollution, NatCat, not only in France, but in Iceland, Japan, Spain. Pool solutions can be applied to other types of agro-pandemic. Risk mutualization is needed. NatCat risk covered in France at an affordable price due to mandatory insurance. With climate change, that price will have to increase. Should the reinsurance industry offer a limited cover at an affordable price? The state would then pay the excess of what the private market covers. Should we follow the road of a two-step cover with a minimum compulsory cover with or without support of the state, and above that, provided an additional premium with a broader and higher cover purchased by more concerned and or wealthy insurers? Another path for our industry is to contribute to a reduction in exposure through loss prevention advices to our clients and our own ESG responsibility. I am afraid I have been providing more fears and questions than solutions. Sylvie, Clémence, Laurent will study concrete issues in their tutorials. Thanks for your attention. Goodbye.